Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bloom and Destiny LLC Mental Health Check-in. I'm so happy to have you. As I stated before, my name is Patricia Jala. I am the owner of Bloom and Destiny LLC, and God has given me this idea to do just my camera. Sorry, God has given me this idea to do mental health check-ins, really to help and educate those who either struggle with mental health or have family that struggles with mental health. Today's topic was Behold, all things are new. However, I am changing the topic because God is dealing with me and directing me to a different topic to discuss today. So, what I'm going to talk about today is kind of like the stigma of mental health. A lot of times, in any culture, or really in the Christian, I really want to focus on like the Christian community. A lot of times, when we have family members or we know people that are struggling with mental health, we often go with, oh, just say this prayer, or, keep talking to the Lord, which is 100% helpful. You have to always talk to the Lord and include God in everything. But, keep praying, um, keep doing this and doing that. You're not doing enough type of thing. You're not praying enough type of thing. You're not reading the Bible enough type of thing. And in some situations, people who struggle with mental health, they do include those things. But sometimes for them, simply that for them, it works. It works for those who believe. But sometimes for people who struggle with mental health, is not there yet. It's not really alive or helpful to them. And so I was just thinking and talking to someone, and they was telling me about a crisis that they had went through. And when they were going through this crisis, they usually call on the name of Jesus. But in that situation, the crisis still got worse, and things just got, you know, worse for them. And all their family member was doing was telling them was, you're not praying enough, you're not doing this enough, this is why this happening, the enemy's after you, which in part is true. But I was explaining to this person it works in three parts. So what we focus on is mind, body, and soul. So of course, so I explained to this person how this work, how spiritually it is a piece of component of it, medically and mentally, it's all together. It is spiritual, but it's all together. So this is how the spiritual aspect of it works. When we have trauma in our lives, and hold on for 1 second, I'm trying to share this to Facebook too. When we have trauma in our lives through whatever happens to us, it opens up a door of pain and unforgiveness and all these different types of emotions. When that happens, it gives the enemy leeway to kind of interfere with the brain function. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sharing it. The brain function and pattern of how we think in situations. So we have trauma that brings on an emotion of pain and unforgiveness and hate and bitterness. And then it affects our brain process, which is the chemical imbalances in our brain. So now we're not thinking the same. We're thinking in negative patterns. We're thinking in different types of ways that is negatively influenced and is imbalanced. And then at the imbalance, that's when we have the medication piece or the medication component, or, the therapy or whatever, and all those different things to kind of balance those things out. But also, in order to, heal us from the chemical imbalance, there is also deliverance. So it's different phases that you go through for your healing process. When we have the chemical imbalance, that's we know as a stronghold. So the stronghold is something that we do repetitively, even though it's negative, but it's our only way to cope. So that's the spiritual piece. The medical piece is, I told you about the chemical imbalance and the way our brain and our neurons process that the enemy has interfered with. And then we got the therapy and the medication. So what the medication do is, the medical piece also, what the medication do is restore the chemical imbalances in our brain. That's the medical side of it. The deliverance part of it is through therapy. So we are processing our emotions through therapy. We're learning new coping strategies through therapy. We're learning how to tear down those strongholds that has interfered with our thinking patterns, and realizing what has caused us to think, or what has impacted our thought process, what has caused us to think in these situations, how the trauma has affected us growing up. So after that, after the deliverance process, then it comes the whole. So we got the trauma, which is the beginning, that's the enemy's doorway, which is the spiritual part. We got the medical piece, which is the chemical imbalance in our brain. And we got the medications that treat that part. And then we got the deliverance, the therapy, the whatever God uses as your deliverance. So with the education, when knowing people are going through what they're going through as far as different crisis that they're facing, we got to remember that one strategy doesn't work for everyone. Yes, prayer works. Prayer works in all situations. But what if that person faith is not where it's needed to, you know, get to that healing aspect? What if they need the medication at that moment to kind of heal the synapses and the neurons in our brain to get to a place where it needs to be? It all works in one. So I really want to just say that our approach to those who are struggling with mental health should be a little bit, if I'm not saying for everyone, even I even had to learn this for myself because I used to be very judgmental. I was that person that when I was speaking to that person that they were talking about, like I was the person that said, you need to pray, you need to read, you need to do this, you need to do that, which I still hold today. But now I realize the whole component of how it all works together and how God designed it for us to be. He said, man should not be that by little bread. Man should not, oh my gosh, I got it all mixed up. Not bread alone. Jesus help me. Man should not be alone. And he also had wise counsel. So it just feels better talking to somebody, processing the emotions, learning coping strategies to regulate our emotions, figuring out where this is coming from, healing from the trauma, the pain that the enemy has put as a footstool for the strongholds to develop. So I just want to provide a little education out there about how it all works together and how God sees it, because a lot of times we just process everything as demonic, which, sometimes it does play a role, but that's not the only thing that needs to be addressed with mental health. It's a whole component that needs to be addressed. So that is it. I don't stay on here long, so that is it. That's what I wanted to educate you all about today. I hope you all be blessed, and I will see you next time for our mental health check-in. Bye-bye.